My dad chose my brother over me. Even I ran the farm solo for over 10 years. So I left, and now the farm is falling apart without me. My dad said I'd be fine on my own, so he gave the farm to my brother with 3 kids who hasn't visited in 2 years and plans to cash out. Here's how my story started. After my mother died, I returned to our little family farm at the age of 34 to assist my father in keeping it operational. My younger brother, 31, lives 2 states away with his wife and 3 children. He works in the city and only visits once or twice a year, so he has had no involvement in the farm. Over the years, I've primarily been in charge of the farm's operations. It's a little business with barely any profit. Most years, we barely break even, which is enough to pay property taxes and keep the place running for my father's sake. My father continues to assist whenever possible. It provides him a purpose after his mother's death, but the majority of the actual labor and management rests on me. I am in charge of everything, from caring for the animals and crops to maintaining the equipment and managing all of the bookkeeping and paperwork. And I do all of this on top of working a part-time job in town to supplement my income because the farm does not pay well. Essentially, I've been working on the farm unpaid, living there, and helping out whenever someone needed it. Here's the problem. My father recently said that he is rewriting his will and intends to give the land to my brother. His explanation is that my brother has a family to think about because of his children, whereas I am better capable of caring for myself. In other words, because I'm single with no children and my brother is married with children, Dad believes he deserves the inheritance more than I do. I didn't want to yell at my father, but I did question if he was serious. I replied something like, "What about all the work I've done here?" And he became defensive, saying it's not about keeping score and that in a family, you assist each other out. He minimized my concerns, hinting that I shouldn't worry about who gets what and that he believes I'll be fine on my own because I'm capable. That truly hurt. I have devoted over a decade of my life to this farm. I put my personal life on hold and moved here to help Dad and maintain our family's land. In contrast, my brother has never mowed a field or helped with harvesting. He's not a nasty person. His life took him somewhere else. But now, Dad is stating that the farm, which only exists because I've been working on it, will be given to my brother, who had no involvement in it, simply because he has children and I don't. It feels like a massive slap to the face. I'm not concerned about money in the sense that this isn't a profitable property. It is primarily about the principle. If my brother gets the farm, I believe he would just sell it for cash because he has neither passion or skill to run it. That would mean that everything I've done to keep this farm alive, improve it, and preserve it has been in vain. In addition, I would lose both my home and my job at the same time, while my brother would benefit from a sale. I haven't had a serious sit-down confrontation with Dad since that initial shocking talk. He seemed to dismiss the subject by saying, "Family isn't about keeping score," making me feel selfish for even bringing it up. I feel bad because I do not want to be greedy or ungrateful. I know I return to aid out of love, not with the expectation of a reward, but at the same time, I feel extremely underappreciated and taken for granted. It's as if he doesn't value my efforts simply because I'm the daughter, and in his opinion, girls only help out. I'm so conflicted and hurt. I'm not sure how to approach my father without getting into a confrontation, and I haven't told my brother about it. So, Reddit, am I stupid to be furious that my father intends to give the family farm to my brother, despite the fact that I've been working on it for years? Is my frustration justified, or am I simply entitled? I really need some perspective on this scenario. Comment 1. NTA. Your father is clearly taking advantage of you. He's practically treating you as free labor while rewarding your brother, who accomplished nothing. That's just unfair. You have every right to be offended, and you should seriously consider not working for free. Your father is displaying obvious favoritism or perhaps an outmoded belief that the son should inherit the farm. You're not mistaken here. OP's response: it definitely feels like I'm being taken for granted. Comment 2. I am very sorry you are going through this. Have you truly sat down with your father and discussed how this makes you feel? Maybe he doesn't appreciate how much this is affecting you or how much effort you've put in since you haven't fully sold your side of the story. It could help to carefully convey to him what you've told us here. Also, does your brother actually want the farm? If he is aware of the circumstance, he may be willing to support you. In any case, clear communication is essential. OP responded, "You're correct. I have not had a genuine heart-to-heart talk with him yet. I sort of froze up when he started the change. I think I need to have a proper conversation with him about it. As difficult as it may be, I'm not sure if my brother knows or what he would think. He has never expressed interest in the farm, but yeah, I'll try to discuss it gently with Dad and see if it helps." Comment 3. YTA. Boo-hoo, you decided to go back and play farming. That does not imply you can complain about not being given the land. It is your dad's property, not your own. He can leave it to anybody he wishes, and it stands to reason that he would give it to the child who has a family to maintain. You sound entitled and demand a reward for what you were meant to do. If you do not like it, you are free to leave. But don't try to shame your poor father simply because you regret squandering your own time. Up responded, "I don't expect a payment for assisting my family. I did it because I cared, yet it is difficult not to feel upset in this situation. I understand that it is ultimately his decision, but I do not believe it is wrong to feel disrespected. I am not trying to guilt him. I simply want him to realize where I'm coming from, and if nothing changes, I may have to leave. Even though that's terrible." Update 1. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who commented on my initial post. I followed the advice to sit down with my father and discuss things through. Unfortunately, our conversation did not go as smoothly as I had intended. I attempted to convey to my father how I felt, how I had committed years of my life to keeping the farm functioning, and how it ached to hear he was going to give it to my brother who had never been involved. He appeared uncomfortable and defensive. He basically told me that I shouldn't think of family inheritance as recompense for effort, and that I was wrong to make it all about keeping score. His statements were something along the lines of, "This isn't about tallying up who did more. In a family, you do things for each other because you care, not for some reward." He reiterated that my brother had a family to support and that I'm more independent. So, in his opinion, this is about looking out for the family members who require the greatest assistance. I mentioned that it felt unjust, and he answered, "Life isn't always fair, and inheritance isn't a paycheck." That pretty much ended the conversation because I didn't know how to react without getting into a dispute. I also questioned if my brother was aware of any of this. Dad told me that he had not addressed the change to my brother at all. He responded as if it was no big thing, saying it was just estate planning and I shouldn't be too concerned. That surprised me because it seemed like such a big issue. The entire conversation left me feeling dejected. My father clearly sees all of the work I do on the farm as something that someone would naturally do for her family. He does not consider it as an effort that entitles me to ownership or stake. It's simply expected of me. Realizing that was quite painful. So, at this time, nothing has actually changed. Dad is keeping to his plan, and I'm still here doing the daily farming chores, but I'm becoming bitter. I haven't approached my brother about it yet because he is still in the dark and lives far away. I honestly don't know where to go from here. This scenario just feels dreadful and unfair, and talking to Dad didn't help. I suppose I will have to find out the next step. Maybe it involves my brother, but I am at a loss right now. Comment 1. This is really wrong. To be honest, it sounds like your father has an old school or misogynistic mindset. For example, the daughter is expected to work out of duty, while the son, who accomplished nothing, receives the award since he is the male in the household. You are not even not the asshole. You have every right to feel hurt. The OP responded, "It certainly feels like a way. Unfortunately, I'm beginning to suspect it's a lot of that old-fashioned thinking. Things hurt to think that's how he sees things, but I appreciate you confirming that it isn't okay." Comment 2. If your father refuses to see reason, you may need to start looking after yourself. It is not fair to you to continue working yourself to the bone for nothing if he is simply going to give everything to your brother. Perhaps start by reducing your agricultural tasks or getting a paid employment elsewhere to guarantee your future. It's unfortunate, but your father is taking you for granted and you deserve better. The OP responded, "To be honest, I have been thinking the same thing. I adore the farm, but I can't devote my entire life to something that will never be mine in the end. The thought of leaving makes me feel guilty, but you are correct that I must consider my own future if he does not." Comment 3. You should certainly include your brother in this chat. There's a chance he doesn't want the farm. If he's a sensible guy, he might agree with you, or at least admit to your father that he has no interest in it. At the absolute least, speaking with him could reveal whether he intends to keep or sell it if it comes to him. Knowing this may provide you with additional leverage or knowledge the next time you speak with your father. OP responded, "That is an excellent point. I haven't spoken with my brother yet, mainly because it's difficult and I'm not sure how to bring it up, but I'd like to know what he thinks and what he'd do if Dad actually follows through. I'll try to have that chat with him soon, especially if I can't reach Dad in any other way." Update 2. Many readers pushed me to speak with my brother, so I did. My brother and his family came to see Dad and me briefly. A brief weekend getaway. I took the chance to speak with him about what had happened. I basically told him straight out that Dad was going to leave the farm to him in his will. He seemed astonished. He appeared to have learned about it for the first time here. I asked him hypothetical questions about what he would do if he inherited the property. Would he like to keep it or handle it somehow? He was quite honest. He responded something like, I can't exactly move out here and start farming. My life is in the city. The kids have school and I have my job." In other words, he recognized he wouldn't be able to use the land personally. Then he shrugged and said he'd probably sell it if the opportunity presented itself. I'm not going to lie, hearing him say that out loud irritated me, even though I expected it. I informed him that I had spent over a decade working on the farm and didn't want it sold to some developer or stranger. I was hoping he hadn't thought about it from my perspective and would reconsider. He seemed uneasy and muttered something like, "Yeah, I get that. This is, I don't know, it's complicated. I'd have to think about it." That was about the end of our conversation. He did not explicitly deny the bequest or advise that I receive any share. He primarily appeared uncomfortable. I suppose he doesn't want to be the bad guy, but he plainly sees the farm as a burden or an asset to be sold rather than something to retain in the family. After that chat, I felt quite down. It verified my greatest fears. If Dad goes through with this, the farm will be sold as soon as it passes to my brother. I'm trying not to resent my brother. It's not his fault Dad set this up, and he's simply being practical about his own predicament. But it still seemed like a blow since it meant that all of my efforts here would be in vain in the end. So that is where things stand. Dad has yet to expressly tell my brother, "Hey, I'm leaving you the farm." So my brother is waiting for that news from Dad. I imagine I haven't told Dad about my conversation with my brother yet either. We just had the visit, they departed, and now I'm processing everything. I am not sure how or when to bring this up with Dad. Like, "By the way, I talked to brother and he said he'd sell the farm." I expect the conversation to be tense, but at least I now have a better picture. If nothing changes, the farm's future is effectively nothing. It's a very disappointing conclusion, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. Comment 1. You now have concrete evidence that your brother would sell the farm. I think you should notify your father right away. If your father's entire argument was based on family and preservation, he must understand that his plan means the farm will not be passed down to future generations. If he still insists on giving it to your brother while knowing it will be sold, he is incredibly stubborn and short-sighted. Lay everything out for him. Giving the farm to your brother means it's gone. Perhaps this will wake him up. OP response. I agree that he should hear this quickly. I'm working up the guts to have the conversation. It won't be simple to inform him that his magnificent idea would entirely backfire. But you're right, he has to face that truth. I sincerely hope that information causes him to reconsider, because it is exactly what I was scared of. Comment 2. I have to say that I was disappointed by your brother's reply. I understand that his life is elsewhere, but he didn't even consider trying to maintain the farm or acknowledging your years of work. He simply answered, "Yeah, I'll sell it," without skipping a beat. A stand-up guy might have told your father, "Give it to sis, she's the one who earned it." At the very least, he could have offered a split or plan that included you. It seems somewhat greedy that he would simply grab the money. I understand your father is the main issue here, but I'd be hurt by my brother as well. OP response. I was a little disappointed too. I don't think he intends to injure me. In his opinion, he is simply being reasonable about what he would do. But certainly, a small part of me hoped he'd say something like, "You've been doing all the work. Maybe it should go to you." Or that he'd at least reassure me he wouldn't screw me over. He actually didn't. I'm not trying to make him look bad, but it bothered me that he didn't seem to appreciate what I'd done. Update 3. It's been a few months now, and I've been discreetly planning for the possibility of having to construct a life outside of the farm. After reading the suggestions here and seeing how things were going, I updated my resume and started exploring other options in agriculture. I haven't gone yet, but I've become less interested in long-term planning for the farm. I suppose my father has noticed. My father recently confronted me. He inquired why I appeared distracted and uninterested in the upcoming season's plans. I decided to be honest. I told him that I was considering my choices outside of the farm because it had become evident to me that I didn't have a long-term future here. I tried to express it as nicely as possible, but I did not conceal the fact. I can't keep putting all of my time and effort into a farm that I won't inherit or own. Well, that blew up. My father became really agitated and emotional. He basically blamed me for abandoning him. He exclaimed, "So you're just going to leave me here all alone in my old age? After everything, you're walking away?" He went on to say how much he thought I cared about our family and the property, and how unhappy my mother would be if she found out I was willing to just up and leave. He phrased it as if I had betrayed the family. I did my best to remain cool. I told him that I had been here for 8 years because I loved the family, but I also needed to think about my own life. I told him directly that it's difficult to justify staying when I know I'll end up with nothing, and that if my brother inherits the property, he'll probably sell it anyway. I did explain that my brother had told me quite clearly that he was going to sell. Dad only shook his head and mumbled something like, "You don't know that for sure. He might realize its value to the family when the time comes." It was as if he was in denial or didn't want to hear it. The talk was terrible. We were both angry and hurt at the end of it. My father thinks I'm being selfish and disloyal. From my perspective, he is the one who put me in an impossible situation. I told him, "I'm not trying to hurt you, Dad, but I have to have a life that's mine. I can't work myself into the ground here and then have it all taken away." He just said, "I never asked you to sacrifice anything. You chose to come back. If you want to go, go." But he said it in a bitter way. So, yeah, we're kind of at a standstill. He knows I'm serious about leaving, and he's upset. I feel guilty and sad too. I'm sorry things have reached this point. I wish he could see my perspective without feeling assaulted or betrayed. It's as if there is no positive outcome here. If I stay, I am basically screwing myself over. He believes I'm taking advantage of him if I leave. This is a dreadful situation. At the present, we're only discussing the basics of running the farm on a daily basis. I'm still doing my tasks while he's doing his, but there's a lot of tension. I honestly don't know what will happen. I've sent out a couple of job applications, so we'll see what happens. I haven't formally given up on him, but he knows I'm close, and it's devastating for both of us in different ways. Comment. This seems like a no-win situation. In some ways, I sympathize with your father. He's elderly, probably afraid of being alone and watching the farm die, but he took it on himself by not treating you fairly. You have been wonderfully patient and generous. Choosing to live your own life is not selfish. It is necessary. You offered him multiple chances to do the right thing. If you have a good work chance, you should seize it without hesitation. Hopefully, your father will ultimately realize that his actions have consequences. In the meantime, take care of yourself. OP answered. I appreciate it. It's a tragic situation all around. I feel awful for my father, and I know he is worried about the farm collapsing or being alone, but you are correct. I gave him every opportunity to make things right, but he refused. I need to watch out for myself now. If an outside job becomes available, I will most likely accept it, no matter how difficult it will be to go. I hope he understands someday, but I can't count on it. Update 4. A lot has happened during the last few months. The big news is that I landed a new job. I was given a position overseeing operations at another farm about 3 hours away. It's a larger commercial farm, and they were impressed by my experience managing my family farm. The compensation and perks are pretty good, which is something I'm not used to. After working for free for so long, I decided to take the job. I gave my dad a full 2 months' notice that I was leaving. I wanted to give him as much time as possible to prepare, as my departure is obviously a significant change. When I told him I was going, he freaked out. This was a distinct reaction from the previous rage. This time, he was panicking. He begged me to stay and promised we could work anything out. He even agreed to modify his will again. This time, he offered to split the property 50-50 with my brother if I didn't leave. I did not agree for a number of reasons. I calmly conveyed to him that sharing farm ownership is not a viable solution. If I owned half and my brother owned half, he could still force a sale of the entire land or sell his piece to someone else, such as a developer, which would essentially damage the farm. I asked my father to think about how that scenario would play out, and I believe that made him pause. For the first time, I watched him realize that his compromise approach would not secure the farm. I believe that was the point at which he realized I was correct about the risk. He went quiet and then stated he needed to speak with my brother. According to what I gathered and what he later told me, that phone chat with my brother was a genuine eye-opener for my father. He directly asked my brother what his plans would be if he inherited even a portion of the land. Apparently, my brother informed him, "Yeah, Dad, I'm going to sell it." I assumed he was aware of this. My brother wasn't nasty, but he was honest that he doesn't have the time or desire to manage a farm, and that the money from selling it would be more beneficial to his family. I'm not sure if my father truly grasped it until he heard it directly from my brother just now. Their conversation became quite heated, at least on my father's side. I wasn't on the call, but my father seemed noticeably disturbed afterwards. I overheard him yelling about how he couldn't believe we'd just give up our family's land for cash. I believe he was frustrated with the situation and possibly at himself, because what did he expect? He now realizes that his approach would have resulted in exactly the opposite conclusion he desired. At this moment, my father is scrambling. He knows I'll be departing in a few weeks. My notice time is approaching its end. He began trying to find staff to replace all of the work I perform. Unsurprisingly, it is not easy. For starters, competent farm labor or a manager costs significantly more than he ever had to pay me because I worked for free except housing and board. He honestly told me the other day in a disappointed tone, "I had no idea it would be this expensive to find someone to do what you do." I feel sorry for him. I really do. He's an elderly man who is concerned about losing both his child and me moving out, as well as the viability of the farm. My contributions were not limited to what the family does. They held genuine economic worth. And now he sees it plainly because he must pay someone else. The farm's finances are already strained thin, and recruiting workers or a farm manager will eat into our slim profit margins. I'm not sure how long he will be able to keep things going without me. I'm now packing my belongings and planning to move out in a few weeks to start my new career. My father and I are on slightly better terms now than we were after the major fight in Update 3. I believe he is too fatigued and worried to continue battling with me, and he has accepted that I will leave. He hasn't explicitly stated it, but I believe he understands why this is happening and accepts responsibility for it. We've come to a tragic understanding. To answer the question that everyone has been asking since the beginning, no, I do not believe I am the bad guy in this case. I don't think my father or brother intended to hurt me, but their actions did. And now we're all living with the aftermath. It's a bad, convoluted situation with no clear winners. I'll go on and do what's best for me. If the farm becomes too much for my father to manage, he may have to consider selling it in the future. That aspect is now up to him. I'm sad that this is how things ended. Thank you to everyone who followed along and provided advice. This has been a difficult journey, but I am confident that brighter days are coming, at least for me. Mom demanded $18,000 for my sister's wedding. When I refused, she stole it. Weeks later, both faced fraud charges and lost a $250,000 trust fund. Look, as a 27-year-old boy, I've always understood that my mother played favorites. Growing up, you just accept certain things. Some children receive the spotlight, while others get the bill. I was usually the latter. My younger sister Isabel was the golden child from the start, with private school paid for, a car given to her at the age of 18, and college tuition covered without her doing a single shift. Meanwhile, I was trudging through community college and working nights at a warehouse to pay textbooks for character development, or whatever. But this was a completely new level of chutzpah. It was a Thursday evening around 7. I had just returned home from my job at the engineering firm, still dressed in my work clothes, and was ready to take a drink and unwind. That's when my mother entered my apartment. Yes, she still had the key. With that expression on her face, I was about to make another mistake I would later regret. She did not even sit down. I stood there in my living room, arms crossed, and dropped it like a bomb. Lucas and Isabel's wedding is in 3 months. She needs $18,000. You're going to give it to her. Not, can you help? Or, would you consider? But a straight-up demand for $18,000. I sat down slowly with my drink, attempting to digest what I had just heard. Mom, there is my entire savings account. I've been working on that for 4 years. Her expression did not change. That cold, calculated gaze she'd honed over decades. You do not need it right now. Isabel is getting married. Today is her big day. Lucas, family comes first. Or did I raise you to be selfish? There it was. She has been using guilt and manipulation since I was a child. Paint me as the bad person for wanting to keep the money I earned from working 60-hour weeks and skipping vacations. I took a breath and remained cool. Mom, I worked my butt off for that money. Isabel is 26. Her fiancé, Mark, has a job. They make twice as much as I do. If they can't afford their dream wedding, should they tone it back or save up? The wrong answer. Her face stiffened like concrete. So you plan to disgrace your sister? Allow her to walk down the aisle in a low-cost venue because her brother is too rich to support the family. Everyone will know that you declined. Your uncles, cousins, and everyone. The threat was evident. She would make me the villain of every family gathering for the rest of my life. Consider me the selfish son who let his sister's wedding fall apart. Never mind that I'd helped them before. I covered my mother's car payment twice last year, paid for Isabel's emergency dental work, which included cosmetic veneers. But yes, I'm the greedy one here. I'm not paying for Isabel's wedding, I stated firmly, looking her dead in the eyes. That's it. The temperature in the room dropped by roughly 20 degrees. Mom's lips tightened into a narrow line and her eyes became dark. You are making a mistake, Lucas. A large one. Do not say I didn't warn you. She turned and stormed out, slamming the apartment door so hard that it rattled the frame. I sat in the silence that followed. That sickening feeling in my belly told me that this was not over. I should have changed my locks that night. Should have frozen my credit. I should have done a number of things, but I figured even she wouldn't break certain boundaries. Yes, I was mistaken about that. My phone was vibrating like crazy when I got up on Friday morning. My bank's fraud department missed 3 calls and sent 2 text alerts. My stomach fell before I opened them. I logged onto my banking app, and my worst suspicions were true. My available credit has plummeted. Nearly $18,000 in pending charges were posted overnight. My checking balance was unaffected. This was all on my credit card. The transaction history made me want to punch through the wall. Wedding venue deposit, $6,000. The catering down payment is $5,200. Photography package costs $3,400. Florist charges, $1,800. Dress adjustments cost $1,200. Reception decorations cost $600. The charges kept coming, all within an 8-hour time frame. I kept my credit card secured in my desk drawer. My hands were so shaky that I couldn't even dial the bank. I spent 20 minutes on the phone confirming information I already knew. Someone had used my card for a shopping spree, and they got my complete card information, including the CVV code. The fraud representative inquired whether anyone had access to my residence. My mother has a key, I explained, and she wanted the exact amount yesterday. The rep fell silent for a moment. Sir, I apologize, but you will need to submit a police report for fraud. We can begin the dispute process, but with family involvement, things could become problematic. I hung up and sat on my couch, trying to get my brain around it. My mother had broken into my apartment, found my credit card, and used it to pay for my sister's wedding, which cost nearly $18,000. Not asked, borrowed, or stolen. My friend Jonas, with whom I'd worked for 5 years, contacted right away to arrange our customary Friday coffee run. I heard something in my voice as I responded. You sound like someone pissed in your cereal. What happened, dude? I told him everything. He paused for a time before saying, Bro, you need to handle this now or they'll keep doing it forever. He was correct. It wasn't simply about money anymore. This was about my mother thinking she could rob me and not face any consequences. I called my mother. She answered the third ring, sounded pleasant, as if she hadn't just committed felony fraud 14 hours before. "Morning, Lucas. I hope you've had time to think about, you stole my credit card." I cut her off, my voice hard. "You stole $18,000. Silence, followed by her trademark patronizing tone. "Oh, don't be too dramatic. I did not steal anything. I just handled things. Isabel needed assistance, and you were being stubborn. You'll thank me later once you see how lovely the wedding is. This woman has some nerve. She did not even refute it, did not apologize. She acted like she was doing me a favor. I need my card back now. And you are going to cancel all of those charges." She laughed. "Lucas, honey, it's already finished. The deposits are non-refundable. Simply accept it and move on. Besides, what are you going to do? Call the cops on your own mother?" There it was, the actual power play. She assumed I wouldn't press charges because of family loyalty and the way it would look, because she'd taught me never to generate a scene. Unfortunately, she had miscalculated. She had laughed too, but there was no humor about it. "So much for it. You have 72 hours to repay all of the money, or I will file a police report. You would not dare." I hung up. Then I called the bank again and officially reported the stolen card and all charges as fraudulent. The representative directed me through the next procedures, including submitting a police report, which I booked for the following morning. Then I did something that will eventually pay off. I called my father. My parents divorced when I was 21, around 7 years ago. Dad had relocated 2 states over, remarried, and started a new life. The divorce had been messy. Dad found Mom had been siphoning funds from their joint accounts for years. This is why he left. He picked up on the second ring. "Lucas, is everything fine?" "Dad, I need to ask you about the will you mentioned before, the one Grandpa left." Saturday morning, I arrived at the police station with printed bank statements, transaction logs, text message screenshots, and a timeline of events. Inspector Elena Rossi, the officer who collected my report, was competent but first dubious. "You're filing charges against your mother for credit card fraud?" she inquired, studying the documents. "Yeah, she stole my card from my flat and spent all of my savings without my consent. I have evidence that she was in my apartment." That caught her interest. I accessed the CCTV footage on my phone, which I had obtained from my building management that morning. My mother sneaks into my apartment in the middle of the night and leaves 55 minutes later with a tiny purse. Inspector Rossi's expression changed from dubious to really concerned. "Mr. Moreau, this is considerable proof. With this film and the financial documents, we can surely proceed. Are you sure you want to file charges?" "I am certain." She nodded and began the papers. They told me it would take a few days to process, that they would need to question my mother and Isabel, and that I should be prepared for any backlash. I was expecting the wrath. This was part of the plan. Meanwhile, Mom had presumably told Isabel about what had transpired as my phone began to fill up with texts from my sister. Angry ones. "How could you do this to me? My wedding is in 10 weeks. Everyone will know you're a selfish jerk. I hope you're enjoying spoiling my wonderful day." Actually, I was. I did not respond to any of them. I just screenshotted everything and saved it to my evidence folder. My uncle, Stefan, Mom's brother, called me on Sunday evening. He'd always been more sensible than her, but he avoided family conflict. Emphasis on typically. "Lucas, your mother called me in hysterics. Says you're attempting to have her arrested due to a misunderstanding. Uncle Stefan, she stole my credit card and spent $18,000 without my authorization." "That is not a misunderstanding." He exhaled. "I'm not saying what she did was right, but is it truly worth breaking the family apart? Can't you simply figure it out?" "Ah, yes, I believe he meant that you just let her rob you in peace. She had an opportunity to put things right. She refused. This isn't about money anymore. It is about their believing that they can do whatever they want without consequences." There was a prolonged pause. "Your mother stated something about combating this. She said she had resources. This made my blood run cold." Resources meant lawyers, which is why my discussion with Dad the other day was so crucial. After I hung up, I opened the folder Dad had sent me overnight. Inside was documents about my grandfather's inheritance, specifically the trust fund he established before his death 5 years ago. Grandpa had been a successful small business entrepreneur who sold his company for a fair sum of money. Divide the money among his children and grandchildren, according to the trust's strict terms. The key clause is hidden in legalese. Any beneficiary convicted of fraud, theft, embezzlement, or financial crimes against another family member forfeits their whole portion in the trust, which will be redistributed to the remaining beneficiaries. Mom's part of $200,000 is now held in a managed trust, which she will not be able to touch until she is 62 next year. Isabel had a smaller share, $50,000, that would be unlocked when she was 28. The finest thing was that Grandpa had appointed me as the secondary trustee after Dad. If Mom was convicted of fraud, I would have the ability to implement the forfeiture clause. Every cent would be allocated to me and my cousins. Dad had warned me about this clause years ago when the will was read. Grandpa said he included it expressly because he had witnessed Mom's manipulative tendencies and wanted to shield the family from them. At the time, I assumed it was paranoid. Now, I had the nuclear option. Monday morning, I received a call from Inspector Rossi. Mr. Moreau, we have reviewed your case. Given the evidence, we are proceeding with charges. Your mother will be contacted this week for questioning. How about my sister? She intentionally profited from the fraud. That is difficult. If she truly did not know the money had been taken, we cannot charge her, but we will question her. After we hung up, I texted Isabel. One basic message. Every charge made with my stolen card must be returned immediately. You have 72 hours. Her reaction arrived within minutes. Are you insane? The deposits are non-refundable. The wedding is in 9 weeks. I am not canceling anything. I responded, then you'll be getting married while Mom is facing with fraud charges. Your choice. You're bluffing. You will not do this. I did not answer. Wednesday morning, the bomb went off. Inspector Rossi and another police arrived to Mom's residence to question her over the fraud charges. My aunt, who lived close, sent me a play-by-play within an hour. They claimed the cops were there for 100 minutes. That mother came out pale and scared. Isabel screamed at them from the driveway. That afternoon, my phone rang. Mom's attorney, Laurent Dubois, appears to have specialized in family law and white-collar defense. Wonderful. Mr. Moreau, I represent Claudia Moreau in connection with the claims you have made. I am phoning to discuss a resolution. My customer confesses that there was a misunderstanding over the use of your credit card. She's willing to set up a payment plan to repay the $18,000 over the course of 14 months. In exchange, you waive the charges. I nearly laughed. 14 months? A repayment plan? What about stolen money? Your client stole my card and committed fraud. There is video evidence. This is not a misunderstanding. It is a crime. The answer is no. His tone hardened. Mr. Moreau, I would advise you to reconsider. Bringing criminal charges against your mother will be costly, time-consuming, and irreversibly harm your family relationships. Is it actually worth $18,000? Yes, I replied bluntly. Very good, but I should tell you that we will mount a strong defense. This will turn ugly. Waiting for it. I hung up. After I hung up, my phone began to vibrate with texts from various family members. My Aunt Margot, Uncle Stefan, and even some cousins I seldom spoke with. Everyone was trying to get me to drop the accusations, to be the bigger person, to think of Isabel's wedding. None of them labeled Mom's actions wrong. It was all about protecting her and making sure Isabel's special day was not wrecked. Funny how family comes first only when they require anything from me. Everyone knew Mom favored certain people, controlled others, and spoiled Isabel, but they all agreed because it was simpler than confronting them. So I was done making things simple. That evening, Jonas arrived with pizza and drinks. Since the theft, he had been checking in on me every day to see how I was doing. So they hired lawyers, he claimed. Does this suggest you're in trouble? Nah, I have surveillance footage, bank records, and her own admission from a recorded call. She's screwed, and she knows it. The lawyer is simply attempting to limit the harm. How about the wedding? I opened Isabel's Instagram on my phone. She'd shared a long, dramatic story about how her toxic brother was attempting to spoil her special day and how families should support one another. The comments were largely positive. Her buddies did not know the whole tale. I told her she was playing the victim card too aggressively. Jonas shakes his head. Your family is just extraordinary. What's your overall goal here? I told him about the trust fund, Grandpa's forfeiture provision, and the $200,000 Mom may lose if convicted. He let out a low whistle. Wow, that's tactical. It is justice. She has spent my entire life taking from me money, thumbwim, and peace of mind. Now she is about to learn a lesson. And Isabel is collateral damage. She could have done the right thing by refunding the expenses. Instead, she is playing the victim. Jonas raised his drink. I have to say, man, I really admire this. Most people would have surrendered by now. The following few days were a flurry of legal preparation. Inspector Rossi called with updates. The probe was moving forward. They had confiscated Mom's financial papers and discovered evidence of other suspicious activities. Mom has apparently borrowed money from family members without asking for it before. Friday afternoon, exactly 1 week after the incident, I received a call from Isabel's fiancé, Mark. I scarcely knew him, but he sounded stressed. Lucas, man, we need to chat. Can we meet for coffee? It's just us. Interesting. I promised to meet him Saturday morning. Saturday morning, I arrived early at the coffee shop and settled into a back corner table where we could converse privately. Mark came 10 minutes later, looking worried and as if he had not slept in days. He sat across from me. Thank you for meeting me. I realize things are a disaster right now. That's one way to phrase it. He took a breath. Listen, I need you to grasp something. I didn't realize your mother stole that money. Isabel informed me you had agreed to contribute to the wedding and were eager to help. I leaned back and studied him. He appeared real, and you trusted him despite the fact that I had never discussed the wedding with you. Isabel mentioned that you two had a complex connection and that you were more comfortable communicating through your mother. I thought that was strange, but he trailed off and ran a hand through his hair. I wanted to believe her. We're getting married in 9 weeks. So, what has changed? The cops stopped up at her flat on Thursday to ask inquiries. I was there and overheard everything. When they went, I asked her directly if she knew the money had been stolen. She broke down and confessed everything. That caught my interest. Everything? Mark nodded, appearing unwell. Your mother did not only steal your card that night, she had been planning it for weeks. Isabel scouted your place during a visit 3 months ago to find out where you kept your wallet, paperwork, and everything else. Isabel suggested hitting the account at night when you'd be sleeping and less likely to notice immediately away. My palms tightened into fists beneath the table. So, Isabel was more than simply a passive recipient. She actively participated. The whole surprised sister act was just that, an act. She worked out the details with her mother. I inquired, keeping my voice level. Yes, it appears that your mother has been attempting to figure out how to access your money for months. Isabel is the one who pointed out that if you were asked directly, you would probably say no. Therefore, they should just accept it. I thought my trust difficulties couldn't get much worse. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Mark stared me in the eyes. Because I am not going to marry someone who helps rob their own brother. I called the wedding off this morning. The words remained in the air between us. I had not expected that. Did you call it off? I gave her the ring back an hour before I arrived. I told her I couldn't establish a life with someone capable of such dishonesty. She has been phoning and texting nonstop, but I banned her. He brought out his phone and showed me a series of increasingly anxious messages from Isabel. Mark, please. And that was Mom's idea, and I'll make things right. Finally, you're going to regret it. She also stated that she would tell everyone that I abandoned her at the altar, cheated, or did whatever else to make her appear like the victim. I'm ready for it, though. I've already informed my family the truth. I respected that. Guy had a backbone. What do you need from me? Nothing, really. Nothing. I just wanted you to know that not everyone in this scenario is against you, and I felt you should understand the entire scope of their plans. There is more. Of course there was. Mark took out his phone again, opened his photographs, and showed me copies of text communications between Isabel and Mom, plans for accessing my flat, and discussions about which vendors to book. Isabel even sent a message stating that Lucas is too passive to truly press accusations. He'll fold as the wedding date approaches. That one stings. Can I get copies of these? I inquired. I've already emailed them to you. I figured the cops might want them for their case. We talked for another 30 minutes. Mark shook my hand as we parted ways. For what it's worth, I'm sorry you're going through this. Your family has been making you believe you are the problem. You are not. Yes, they are. I drove home in a haze, my mind whirling. Isabel had actively collaborated with Mom to rob me while simultaneously posting on social media about how eager she was for her wedding, how grateful she felt, and how much she loved her family. The manipulation was astounding. That afternoon, I sent Mark's screenshots to Inspector Rossi. She called me 20 minutes later. Mr. Moreau, these messages have a tremendous impact. If Isabel consciously helped plot the fraud, we can accuse her as an accomplice. Are you ready for that? I recalled all the times Isabel had gotten away with stuff when she was younger. The lies, the stolen money from when we were youngsters, the times she destroyed my car and blamed it on me. Mom had always shielded her and made excuses. Yes, I answered. Charge her. The following week was chaotic. On Monday morning, Inspector Rossi brought Isabel in for interrogation. Based on the texts Mark gave, they had enough evidence to charge her as an accomplice to fraud. She was arrested on Tuesday afternoon. My phone burst with messages from family members. Again, they were all incensed that I had allowed the police to arrest Isabel as if I had personally arrived with handcuffs. The best part, Mom's lawyer phoned me on Wednesday. His tone was drastically different than previously. Professional panic. Mr. Moreau, considering the current developments with your sister's incarceration, my client would like to suggest a settlement. She will return the entire $18,000 instantly and reimburse all of your legal fees. In exchange, no. Mr. Moreau, please listen. I said no. Your client has several chances to put things right. Now she must face the consequences. The prosecution is threatening jail term, possibly 3 to 6 years, for fraud and identity theft. Is this truly what you want for your mother? What I want is for her to be held accountable only once in her life. And honestly, all I wanted was to stop receiving phone calls from pricey lawyers who charge by the minute. He attempted some additional angles. Family healing, fresh starts, and focusing about the big picture. I shut it all down. Finally, he sighed deeply. Mr. Moreau, you're making a terrible mistake. This will haunt you. Nah, I can deal with it. Friday afternoon brought the moment I had been waiting for. Inspector Rossi called to provide an update. Mr. Moreau, your mother has been officially charged with credit card fraud, identity theft, and felony theft. Your sister has been charged as an accomplice. If convicted, they will both face lengthy jail terms. However, the prosecutor's office has stated that they are willing to consider a plea offer provided both defendants demonstrate regret and make full reparation. What kind of plea agreement? Probation, community service, criminal record, and no jail time if they comply and repay everything right away. But there is a catch. They'd have to plead guilty in court and publicly disclose their actions. Allocution entailed standing before a judge and confessing their misdeeds on the record. Public humiliation, legal penalties, and a lasting criminal record. When might this occur? The hearing is planned for Monday. Both your mother and sister would have to agree to the terms by the end of today. Otherwise, this will go to trial. I thanked her before hanging up. Then I waited. I wondered if Mom would swallow her pride and accept the agreement, or if her ego would demand a trial. My phone rang 2 hours later. Mom's number. I let it go to voicemail. She called 3 more times and left a message. Her voice shook. Lucas, please pick up. We need to discuss Monday. The lawyer suggests we should accept the plea deal. We don't have a choice but to admit everything in court. Everyone will know. Please, there must be another way. Call me back. I did not respond. Saturday morning, Isabel attempted to call from a new phone number, most likely a friend's, because I had blocked her. I did not pick up. She also left a voicemail. Lucas, this is me. I understand your anger, but please do not take this to court. Mark left me. The wedding is canceled. All of my friends are aware of what transpired. I have lost everything. I ask you to drop the charges. I'll repay you myself. I promise. I will obtain a job. I will do whatever it takes. Please don't make us go through with this. Her voice cracked at the end. Then she sobbed. I felt a twinge of something. Not really sympathy, but perhaps pity. Then I remembered the text she sent to Mom. Lucas is too passive to follow through. I did not respond. It turns out I am quite passive. I'm sitting on my couch, passively watching everything unfold. Monday morning, I arrived at the courthouse. Inspector Rossi had informed me I didn't have to be present, but I wanted to see everything through. I wanted to see them confront what they had done. Call it closure or petty. I'll call it both. The courtroom was small, with the usual mix of defendants, attorneys, and family members. I sat in the back row. Mom and Isabel were in the front with their lawyer, dressed as if they were attending a funeral. Isabel's eyes were red from crying, and she was attempting to convey sympathy for the defendant. Cute. Marianne Keller, an older woman, presided over the case. Mom and Isabel stood while the charges were read out. Judge Keller inspected them over her glasses. "How are you pleading?" The attorney cleared his throat. "Your Honor, both defendants seek to enter guilty pleas and accept the prosecution's plea arrangement." "All right, Mrs. Moreau. Miss Moreau, do you understand that pleading guilty means admitting to these charges on the record? Are you going to have a criminal history?" Mom's voice was hardly audible. "Yes, Your Honor." Isabel only nodded, unable to respond. "Then, allocute and tell me what you did. This was it. It is now or never." Mom took a hesitant breath and started talking, her voice hollow. "I went into my son's apartment without permission in the middle of the night. I took his credit card from the counter. I used it to charge $18,000 towards my daughter's wedding expenditures. I did this knowing he was refusing to give me the money. I did this purposefully and without his permission." Judge Keller turned to face Isabel. "And you, Miss Moreau?" Isabel's voice crackled. "I helped plan it. I told my mother where my brother stored his credit card. I realized the money was being stolen without permission. I spent that money on my wedding, knowing it had been stolen." The courtroom remained silent. Judge Keller stared at them for a long time. "Beautiful. The court accepts your guilty plea. You will each serve 4 years of probation, complete 250 hours of community service, and pay $18,000 in restitution, with an initial payment due in 45 days and the remainder on a probation plan. You will also attend court-ordered therapy. Any breach of probationary conditions will result in immediate jail sentence." They both nodded in humiliation. As everyone poured out of the courtroom, Mom noticed me in the back row. Our gazes met. Hers were filled with tears of defeat and possibly sorrow. I thought, well, dandy. Outside the courthouse, Isabel attempted to approach me. Her lawyer drew her back, most likely out of fear that she might exacerbate the situation. She called out nevertheless. "Lucas, may we please talk?" I walked to my car without reacting, got inside, and drove away. 3 days after the court hearing, my phone began to ring again. Mom comes first, followed by Isabel and other family members. All of them wanted to communicate, work things out, and get past this. I ignored each of them for 72 hours. Allow them to simmer in the repercussions of their conduct. Allow them to wonder if I will ever speak to them again. Then, on Friday morning, I received a call from an unfamiliar phone number. I answered it out of curiosity. "Is it Lucas Moreau?" A female voice, professional and clipped. "Yeah, who is this?" "I'm Anna Vogel with Cornerstone Bank. I'm phoning about Claudia and Isabel Moreau. They've designated you as the point of contact for a loan application." My blood became chilly. "Which loan application?" "They are seeking for a $18,000 joint personal loan to make the reparation payment to you as mandated by the court. However, due to their recent criminal convictions, the application has been flagged. We need to confirm some details with you." So they were attempting to obtain a loan to repay me, most likely at a high interest rate, which they would then blame on me in some way. I could almost hear it. "Lucas had us take out a predatory loan. I'm not involved in their financial decisions," I stated firmly. "Whatever they decide to do is their business." "Understood. I merely needed to confirm that you are the victim in their fraud case. We validated using public records, so that was all I needed. I appreciate your time." She hung up. I sat there thinking that the 45-day restitution period was coming, and they didn't have the money. Mom probably couldn't use her trust fund yet, and Isabel didn't have any income. Good. That afternoon, I finally called my father. "Lucas, I've been trying to reach you. I saw the court records." "Wow, what a week. You could say that. Listen, I need to know how to execute the forfeiture clause in Grandpa's trust. My mother was convicted of fraud against me. That triggers the clause, correct?" He was silent for a moment. "Yes, it does. Do you want to go through with it?" "Yes, I want to enforce it." "I will email you the trustee documents. You will need to notify both the court and the trust administrator. It takes around 75 days to process, but once done, her part is redistributed. You will receive the largest portion because you are the victim, and Isabel's portion is subject to the same clause. If she is convicted of fraud against her family, she will also lose it." Both of them forfeit a total of $250,000. I let it sink in. $250 grand. More than enough to cover what they had stolen from me 14 times. Do it, I instructed. File the paperwork. That evening, I returned to my mother's house for the first time since the theft. Did not go inside, just sat in my car across the street, watching. The lights were on. I saw shadows moving around within. I wondered what they were saying, if they were arguing or crying, and who they were going to guilt trip next. My phone vibrated. A text from Mom. I know you are outside. Please come inside. We need to talk. Of course, she had seen me. Woman had hawk-like eyes. I got out of the car and went to the front door. It opened before I could knock. Mom stood there, appearing as if she had aged 12 years in 2 weeks. I stepped inside. Isabel sat on the couch, looking equally devastated. Mom gestured to the dining room table, which was covered in paperwork, saying, "We need to discuss the restitution payment. Loan applications, budget spreadsheets, and bank statements. We do not have $18,000 in liquid cash. The bank offers a loan, but the interest rate is 23%. It will take us 7 years to pay it off." "Not my problem," I replied flatly. Isabel's head snapped upward. "What do you mean by not your problem? You are the one who filed charges. You are the one who put us in this predicament. No, you are the ones who have stolen from me. How could you be so heartless?" Isabel stood forward, her voice rising. "Family forgives one another. You are supposed to—" "I am supposed to what?" I cut her off. "Let you rob me and then thank you. That is not how families function, Isabel. This is how abuse works. Also, I'm quite sure the family doesn't treat your residents like a heist movie, but maybe I missed the Hallmark special." Mom raised a hand. "Everyone should calm down. Lucas, please. There must be a way to work this out. What if we arrange a payment plan with you directly? Smaller amounts over time. You mean the 14-month plan your lawyer proposed, which I already rejected?" "We're desperate," Mom explained. For once, her voice was free of manipulation. "If we accept this loan, we will be in debt for years. Isabel cannot find work because of her criminal background. I might lose my job if they do a background check for my renewed certification. We are drowning here." I glanced at both of them and saw the wrecks of their lives. Part of me was satisfied, but another part of me, the part that recalled family meals and birthday celebrations and Mom teaching me to ride a bike, felt a flash of something. Not forgiveness, not yet. Perhaps never, but something gentler than pure wrath. "This is what's going to happen," I explained softly. "You're going to take the loan. You will pay me back in full within 45 days, as mandated by the court. And then you'll both go to therapy. Real treatment, not court-ordered counseling. You're going to figure out why you thought it was acceptable to treat me as your personal ATM for 28 years. Isabel opened her lips to argue, but I raised a hand. "And if you genuinely do the work, change, and demonstrate genuine contrition over the course of several years, maybe we can rebuild something. However, it will not be the same as before. It will never be the same as before. Because that version of our family was built on you two taking advantage of me, and I'm tired of being exploited." Mom's eyes flooded with tears. "Lucas, please. There is something else. The trust fund. Your father said that you are executing the forfeiture clause. That is our future. That is our security." So Dad had already contacted them. "Good. Yes, you committed fraud against me. Grandpa's trust is clear about what happens if you do that." Isabel yelled, "That's $200,000. That is my inheritance. You cannot just take it. I'm not taking it. You are giving it up. There is a big difference. Grandpa saw it coming. He knew what you were capable of and included safeguards for the family. Now that protection is activated because you've proven him correct." Mom fell into a chair, face buried in her hands. "We will have nothing. There are no funds, nest eggs, or anything. You'll have what everyone else has, which you earned through your own efforts. Welcome to the way the rest of us live." The resulting silence was profound, broken only by Isabel's silent sobs. I felt no triumph, only a strange emptiness, as if I were closing the door on a chapter of my life that I had never wanted to write in the first place. "I'm leaving now," I said, walking toward the door. "You have 40 days to make the restitution payment. Following that, we'll see." Lucas, please wait. Mom's voice halted me on the threshold. Do you dislike us? I turned back. Instead of the manipulative mother who had stolen from me, I saw a damaged lady who had ruined her own family out of greed and partiality. No, I replied honestly. I do not detest you. I just don't trust you, and I'm not sure I ever will again. That is up to you to fix, not me. I stepped outside, got into my car, and drove away. 5 weeks later, the initial restitution payment arrived in my account on the last possible day before they were in violation of probation. I deposited it, watched my savings amount return to normal, and felt a weight lifted from my shoulders. 3 months later, the trust forfeiture was finalized. I received a check for $155,000 as my part of the reallocated funds. I deposited it in a high-yield savings account and did not touch it. That money represented my future, my emergency fund, and a security blanket that no one could steal. They could try, but we've seen how that works out. Mom texted me occasionally, updates on her therapy sessions, and apologies that seemed more real each time. Small efforts to rebuild a bridge between us. I responded occasionally, brief, courteous, but distant. Isabel ceased contacting me when I didn't answer to her 5th or 6th apologies SMS. I learned from family that Mark had relocated to another state and was working at a call center to rebuild her life. Good. She needed to experience what true work felt like. They attempted to drown me with their entitlement and manipulation. Instead, they drowned themselves. I learned to swim.